2 years since the war started, the war is ended with a ceasefire in which Israel can do whatever it wants against Hamas and also against Hizbula. This is the way it is. Israel also got its living hostages back, so that's a great victory for Israel. But the most important thing that you need to notice is why this is a great victory for Israel. The first thing you need to know is that the most important thing for Israelis is how many soldiers uh, died in the war. And when you look at that, since October 7, 2023, until now, which is right now, we are in December 2025, you can see that less than 1,000 soldiers died in this war, less than 1,000. Okay, so when you think about it, that's actually not quite. Of course, every single life is precious. It's a treasure, and it's very important. And we are sad for every death of every soldier. But when you look at overall, Israel was fighting against Gaza, against Lebanon, against Syria, also against Iran and against Yemen. In addition, also had to fight with other forces pressuring it. So just less than 1,000 soldiers, and this is including in October 7, which is the worst calamity that fell on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Less than 1,000 soldiers. All right, I'm not counting civilians, which is there are 1,000 civilians died in general. 1,000 civilians were murdered or fell in some way or another in the 2 years of the war. Okay, so but just less than 1,000 soldiers. That's actually very low. Now, the other very important thing that you need to notice, and you probably didn't notice, is Israel young generation. This is Israel's finest hour. We thought that Israel young generation, those youngsters that they play video games and they are on TikTok and they are on Instagram. We thought that they are weak in their spirit, but they joined the army and they volunteered to fight, and they fought. Those youngsters, 18, 19, 20, they fought like lions, and they fought against the enemy in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, and they fought and they won. Sometimes they had to sacrifice their life, unfortunately. But the thing is that we had those young people, men and women, fighting against the enemy. You think that those are the same guys that play games, that they are on TikTok all the time, they are on Instagram all the time. Those are the same people, millennials, that went to war. So Israel young generation, basically the next generation, proved itself to be even better than the generation before him, my generation. This generation is better than my generation. Those young soldiers that fought in Gaza and in Lebanon, in Syria right now, they are better than me. They are better than my generation who fought in South Lebanon in 2000 and in Jenin in 2001 and in Gaza 2001. Those guys, those girls are better. They are much stronger. Their spirit is much bigger than what we had. All right, we thought that we had it hard. They had it much harder, and they kill it. They simply kill it. They really bombard it. They really got it. They have it. This is the future of the state of Israel, and those are the young people that are going to be the leaders 20 years, 30 years from now. So you need to be very, very optimistic about Israel, because its generation proved itself to be physically strong, emotionally and spiritually and mentally strong and tough. Now, another thing that you need to understand is also Israel Reserve. Israel Reserve, the civilians that work, that they pay taxes, they sacrifice all of that. They went to the reserve service. They did 200 days, 300 days, 400 days, sometimes even 500 days in reserve service, fighting in Gaza and in Lebanon and in Syria and so on. and they continue. They were strong. They're consistently strong for 2 years, more and more, giving more and more. So this just show how the civilians are strong. If you compare that, you need to understand that for example, in the first Lebanon war, when Israel population was much smaller, because there was a war and the reserve service it was called up. So because the population was much smaller then, about maybe 3 million people in all over Israel at that time, so I was sending about 400,000 reservists to fight in South Lebanon against the PLO. That was a big burden for the Israeli economy, and because of that, there was inflation and so on. This brings me to the third thing, which is very mind blowing about Israel, is that despite 2 years of war, very strong pressure on the Israeli economy, very strong, super strong pressure on Israel from its export and also import partners. Europe, for example, there are some countries that cut ties with Israel or restricted ties with Israel. Countries that were our clients stop being our clients. There's a lot of pressure. There's some countries that are being bullied not to deal with Israel. So there's a lot of pressure. Despite that, Israeli economy is strong. The GDP is getting higher. Right now, Israel is number 27 in ranking in the world with GDP. All right, GDP also, in addition, GDP per capita is also very high in Israel, better than Japan. The currency, the new Israeli shekel, is very strong. It's one of the strongest and most stable currency in the world. And this is even though after 2 years of war. All right, birth rate also is getting up. People are happy. People are having babies. They are creating the next and the next and the next generation. This nation is going to sustain itself and live for a very long time. So before the war, Israel was frightened by Iran, by Hizbula. Iran is not so scary anymore. Israel stopped it from creating nuclear weapon. In addition, Israel managed to foil Iran's plan to destroy Israel. All right, so it can never happen again. More than that, the prospect of a Palestinian state is right now is zero. Is zero. Basically, it will never happen. And the ceasefire between Gaza to Israel is right now in a situation that in order, check this out, the UN Security Council resolution says basically that Hamas must disarm. Okay? And in addition to that, only if the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria, only if they will have severe and deep reform, omitting all the parts in their educational system and in their infrastructure that is anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish, only after they're going to omit all those elements, only then there will be a path for a Palestinian state. And since they will never do that, we know for a fact that there will never be a Palestinian state. So the burden of you have to have a Palestinian state is completely off. And by the way, nobody in the public in Israel is even looking for a Palestinian state, even if it's involved with a peace agreement. So it will never happen. Okay, so right now, after 2 years of war, Israel is the winner. It's ruling half of Gaza. It has posts in Syria. It has posts in South Lebanon. It can do whatever it wants in Gaza and in South Lebanon and in Syria and in Iran and in Yemen. And check this out. There's another fourth thing, is that also Israel and America's alliance also passed a very big test. Okay, during the war, in the last days of Biden, he actually imposed an embargo on Israel. And Israel was actually in a challenge. It had to continue to fight while it's actually saying no to the Americans. And this is something that most Israeli politicians, actually most people that deal with Israel, think that Israel can never do anything if it basically goes against the Americans' wishes or against American interests. But here we go. Israel went to Rafah and conquered Rafah, even though the Americans told them not to do so. And Israel continued the war, even though the Americans told them, look, we won't sell you any more any weapons. All right, Israel managed to surpass that, and Israel continued to fight and win despite that. And this also showed that Israel is actually not that dependent on the Americans. So basically, Israel is actually doesn't have the fear anymore. Check this out. Israel doesn't have the fear anymore that the Americans or the Europeans are going to be angry at them. Israel is right and just, and if you don't like it, then just go on your way. Do whatever you want. We're going to do our thing, and if you don't like it, we don't care about that too much. All right. So Israel is victorious. It's an inspiration for other Western nation to fight against terror, to fight against extreme Islam, and not to be bullied by international organization like the UN or the EU, and also I don't know the International Court for Justice. What's that about? All right, and not to be bullied about also by woke and celebrities, liberal celebrities telling you what to do and judging you when you are the victim. And also they are empowering your enemy, the rapist, the murderer, the baby killer. And so be proud of yourself. You know, Israel is inspiration to be proud of yourself, to do your thing, to to be proud of what you are when everyone else is screaming and yelling. Yes, Israel is strong. Israel won the war.